your own personal journey. I read about it, and I have to say that it touched my heart. The reason is, as you know, we've met over several years, that I've been in this field for so many years, and every person doesn't know that, when you struggle and you live with addiction or mental health, there's so much you carry, and there's always this shame and guilt that comes with that territory. Often I see people on the other side where, I do see people who are addicted and suffering, but then I also see them come around to where you are today, which is takes a lot of effort, energy, and work on an individual's part, but also being able to have that faith and trust that I can get on the other side. So I'm going to invite you. I know your journey goes back when you were young, and
Younger.
young
So
when you were still looking young. That you struggled with alcoholism. Your father was an alcoholic. Family members probably were drinking, and so it was like a culture, and it may have felt normal. And as you say, with the profession, with the legal profession, during lunchtime, socially, evening, lawyers drink, judges drink as they unwind. But somewhere along the line, I know there was this fire within you, a trailblazer you call yourself, that that you became a lawyer and you also became a judge. And that's very impressive. And I want our viewers to know you can accomplish this. So it's very important. Share your story.
Exactly. When I was, I became an alcoholic when I was very young. I know that now, and I had no idea I was going to become a lawyer when I began to drink. But my family was difficult, and the drinking helped soothe my feelings and soothe whatever agitation results from living in an alcoholic, sort of chaotic family with 12 children and lots of drinking relatives. So, as you say, I did have this fire within. I wanted to complete my education. I began to think about becoming a lawyer. I changed my major in undergraduate so that I was hopefully, help smooth the way, although I don't know that being a political scientist helped all that much. But, then I did go into law school, but I was already an alcoholic. And so I kind of drank my way through law school, which, the fact that I was able to graduate was a miracle. Mm-hmm. I moved from my home state, which was Michigan, and where I was educated immediately after graduating because I was heartbroken. A man I had been with for a number of years had broken up with me over my drinking, although I didn't know that was the reason. So I thought I have to get out of my hometown. I moved to New York. I began to work in government jobs, kind of one after another. There were a lot of enablers. People kind of overlooked the fact of what I was up to as long as I could sort of do my job. Mm-hmm. And so that went on for a while, but there were less enablers in New York than in Michigan, because Michigan, everybody knew me and, sort of was used to me. And so there came a time, of course, that as you hear in recovery stories, I hit bottom. The pain of what was going on in my life and all the drinking and drugging was more destructive than what I perceived might happen if I got sober. So I did. I went to a detox and a rehab. And at that time I was working for a judge. Mm-hmm. So I was terrified that I was going to lose my job because, when you first come out of drinking, in an addictive state, your brains are just totally scrambled. And I couldn't really read, and much of what I did for a living was reading and writing mm-hmm. the law, writing motions and jury charges and opinions for the judge. So it was a huge struggle, to just kind of stay in that recovery and not go back, because going back, I guess, felt more terrifying, even though going forward, I had no idea what was going to happen. So years went by and I stayed with it. Although I did have rehab and I had a little bit of therapy, I mainly did a 12-step program in my recovery. And there came a time that things kind of changed and lifted, you know, through a lot of spiritual work, a lot of, you know, self-reflection, and just dealing with whatever the personality problems come about when you're an addict. And when that began to happen, I began to look more outward. So that's kind of when I got involved with the lawyer assistance community, because I was kind of woken up to like, wow, there's, you know, there are lawyers out here that really help each other. And so I was much involved in the lawyer assistance community when, after I was admitted to the bar for 10 years, I started thinking about becoming a judge. In New York, you have to be admitted for 10 years. So the real funny part of my story is I didn't really have a lot of political connections because I didn't have time for that. And so it was all of my recovery friends that helped me get elected. They carried my petitions, they carried my literature, they went with me to subway stops and old people's homes and wherever you go when you're campaigning. And you know, I happened to win the nomination, and because of an election, you know, it wasn't there wasn't political leaders that controlled it. And so that's how I became a judge, you know, through my recovery contacts, not through political contacts. So